and minimize it.
I call this meeting to order on May 28th at 6:03 p.m. The first thing on our, I'm Corey Loa and I'm chairing this committee meeting. The first thing on our agenda is roll call. I am here.
Enable admin.
Brad Shillett. Ashley Lansing.
Here.
Victor Semino.
Here.
Anika Hassan.
Here.
Nuf Fatais. Ryan Richmond. Anna Freitas.
Present.
And Botimpor Abdulaziz.
Here.
Here. Okay. And in the gallery we have Vanessa from the business office. We have Senate President Andy Rodriguez and Chairwoman Kristen Charles. Okay. Save that and we'll move on. So next thing, additions and deletions to the agenda. Do we have any additions or deletions? Okay. Any motions to approve the agenda?
Vice Mayor Semino, motion to approve the agenda as is.
Okay, anybody object? Okay, so agenda is approved. We have no minutes, so we're not gonna do that because we have our first meeting of the year. Open forum, does anybody have anything to say? Open forum.
I do. So, before you speak, either say your name or have the chair call you, so to help the transcriber recognize your voice when the minutes are typed.
So the first meeting, you guys just say your name and try to completely learn all of them. Thank you. Okay. So
Corey,
yes.
this is Andy Rodriguez, by the way. On that note, something that I had a problem with yesterday was when people were speaking, they were speaking really like low to each other. So if you ask a question or if you say anything, just make sure to like project your voice, because that way you can hear you.
Thank you. So the first thing we're going to do is an icebreaker. It's not really an icebreaker, it's more of just introducing ourselves so we can get to know who's on the committee. So I guess I'll start. Hi, I'm Corey, I'm the chair, I'm a senior majoring in criminology with a minor in psychology and leadership studies. This is my second year in SG.
Hello, my name is Victor Semino. I'm a third-year student. My major is geology, with a double minor in business administration and Mandarin Chinese, and it's my first year.
Hello everyone, my name is Andy Rodriguez. I am a senior studying chemical engineering with a minor in leadership studies, and this is also my second year in student government.
Good evening all. My name is Anna Freitas. I am a criminology major, minoring in leadership. It is my first time serving in student government.
I'm Ashley Lansing. I'm majoring in economics, and this is my first year in student government.
Hello everyone, my name is Anika, and I'm majoring in finance and probably minoring in math.
I'm Kristen Chong. I'm majoring in biomedical sciences and minoring in biomedical engineering. This is my second year in student government.
So Abdulaziz, majoring in global health, and what was it to say? So like 4th year in student government?
And then a combination of that and our next thing on our thing is ASBO introduction. So in the back we have Vanessa from the business office. She's going to be sitting in on our committee meetings for summer, at least summer, and fall, and probably spring. So she can introduce herself.
My name is Vanessa Smith. I work in the AS business office across the way. I'm a travel specialist, and I do mainly student organization travel, SG travel, and sports club.
So next thing is committee presentation. So our committee is pretty much bound by the finance code, so which is chapter 8, and there's Title 8, and there's 2 chapters in that specifically hit some of our grants. So we're just going to review some of that now, and then later on we're going to go through some of the actual grants and everything so you can see what they look like, what we're going to be reviewing. I'll let you guys know what we're actually going to look at in summer term and what you guys won't have to see unless you guys are in fall and spring term. But we're going to go through a lot of the statutes now just so you guys can look at them. So we'll start first. Oh, 8. Okay. Do you guys want me to read it, or do you guys just want to read it and go through?
We can read it individually.
Okay. So the first one will be 804.4, which is signature events. We're going to actually go through these this semester.
Like in the summer.
This summer, for the summer term, we're actually going to be reviewing some of these grants for the fall. It essentially just says that we get to choose how much each organization is funded, and we can't fund any organization more than $2,000 for their event. So next one is travel grant. Travel grant is going to be the grant that we get a lot of this summer, and it's students who are part of an organization that go around to travel to a conference, not present, but travel to actually attend a conference, and they can get subsidized for some of their actual travel. So maybe airfare or hotels, their driving, stuff like that. They can actually get reimbursed for some of it, and so that's what the travel grant is. We'll be getting a lot of those this summer. And these are just the maxes that we can fund for each of the organizations. So just take a look at that. Actually, it should be on one of the cheat sheets I gave you guys. So you guys will have it all. Just if you bring these with you, you guys will have that, and then I'll have a copy too. So if you guys forget, I can let you guys know. Any questions about those statutes?
I just have a question. Does everyone know what a signature event is?
I guess I can go through that really quick. So a signature event is there's certain categories for it, but it's an event that has to be put on by 3 or more organizations in combination with each other, and at least one of them has to be funded by activity and service fees. And it's an event that has not been done before, or was done very small in the past, and they want to work together to make it a very big event. There's 4 different categories. We'll look through them later on when we actually look through the grants. But essentially, it's giving organizations funds to start a major event that they can continue for years to come. So anything from, what do we have? We can go through examples in the past, but I think they've done in the past like a big giant ball, stuff like that. Anything that's major that really affects a lot of students and can hit a lot of students. Usually it's some of the bigger organizations. Oh, they did a Olympics day one day. So they funded a giant Olympics where a bunch of multicultural groups got together so they can do soccer tournaments and football tournaments all in one day out on Magnolia Field. So they requested funds to reserve the fields, to reserve the balls, stuff like that. So that's what the signature event is. Engineering Expo, we won't be actually getting into any of these till fall, so we don't really need to look at these right now. Homecoming grants, we won't be looking at any of those until fall as well. Let's go 8-10. So this is what the statutes say for just on grants. So I'll go through the stuff that's more important. It just pretty much tells us how much we can actually get and spend. So we get $20,000 for signature events. That's the max that we can get, and we can't allocate more than $50,000 for fall, up to fall, and then for spring. So we have right now $10,000 set aside for each one. If we don't use all $10,000 in fall, then it can roll over to spring. There's outlines for what they need for the signature events. It's also on the application, which you guys will pull up later so you guys can actually see that. They'll be due the 27th of June, which is the last Friday in June, which is what the statutes request. And we can't fund more than $2,000 for the signature event. So here's the 4 categories for what the signature event must fall under is traditional school spirit, professional and academic development, diversity, or visual/performing arts. And it has a short description of what it needs to be on. These are also, I'm almost positive it's also on the actual application. So we'll go through that. We can fund an event if they don't fall in a category with 2/3 vote from the committee. We'll get through that. We don't do that. So the conference presentation grant program is done by the business office. So they actually, SG gives the funding, but the business office actually reviews the applications and gives the funds for that. They create it. So they have all of the conference presentation grants. The travel grant. For the travel grant, we have $150,000. In the past, we've had, I think it's no more than, I think it's 60% we use in fall and 40% that's in SOPs. We're going to review it later. If you guys disagree with that, we can look at it and see if you guys really want to change it. In the past, it's really worked. So it's up to you guys whether, because that includes both summer term and fall. So right now we have $90,000 for starting July 1st to the end of fall term, and then $60,000 for spring. Mrs. Sun?
I remember, so we're only allowed to spend 60% of the travel grant by fall, right?
Yes, by SOPs, but we can
Change that?
we can amend SOPs if we want as a committee. In the past, it's seemed to be sufficient for what we need to do. But if we really need to do that, then we can change them.
Thank you.
So we can already start accepting them. All these applications have been submitted to the marketing team or people in charge of the website, and they're working on getting those on. They should be done up by the end of the week. And they must turn in the travel things 25 business days prior to the travel date. We might make a couple exceptions for those that are turning in theirs immediately and they're leaving in early July, just if we can get them through, just because how late the applications are actually put online and when they're traveling. So according to that, we might make an exception these next couple of days depending, but we'll look at that as the time comes. The organizations have to do travel audits, but that's all with the business office. We have an application that is due. Our job is to make sure that they have all the dates and everything is sent to them of who's getting funding, and they're going to follow up with me to make sure that the organizations are doing what they need to do. So we're in charge of that. Next thing is a homecoming grant, which we won't do till fall, so we'll review that in fall. Engineering Expo, we won't do till fall, so we'll review that then. That's all we need for that. Any questions about the grants that we're going to be doing? It's essentially the travel grant, the signature event grant. I believe that's all we have for.
Cool question. Do we do the special grants like those auxiliary funds?
No, we do not. Okay. So that's Title. Any questions about that before I close Title 8? Okay. So next thing we'll do is we'll go through our SOPs, and that way we can review what's there already and some changes that I made to see if you guys are okay with them. I sent them out, and we can see about updating them as is. Okay. So the first part just says that we have to follow the rules of Constitution, statutes, procedures. We can't discriminate based on gender, race, etc. That's all from the school policies. This is how it's ratified. It's really ratified, so can't really do anything with that. And amendments must be made a supermajority vote of the committee members at a regular meeting. Okay. So we have the location, it's just talking about when agendas need to be sent out, that's more for me. The time, location, everything, that's more of making sure I actually send it out to you guys with reasonable time to review all the documents. So the first change is here. Quorum is defined as more than half, and I just define it in here as 50% plus 1. It's what most other committees have in their SOPs already, so it's just to try to make sure all of our SOPs are reflecting what each other's look like and what it looks like in our statutes. So, any questions about that? Do I have to do official readings to this to change it, or is this okay?
You do not have to do readings of it.
Okay.
Suggest changes and improve it in your idea.
At any time, 2.6, at any time during a meeting, the standard operating procedures may be suspended. I took out until the adjournment of the meeting because it's essentially, typically you're suspending a certain procedure and the procedure will say how long it lasts. So if you're suspending the quorum or something, that not only affects the quorum, but you're suspending certain things. So it just lines up with all the other committees, and I changed it to a supermajority vote instead of just saying 2/3. Any questions about that? Any problems with that? Mr. Rodriguez?
And just a suggestion, if you're gonna, just for consistency, if you're gonna put supermajority in 2.6, I think you should put majority instead of more than half. 2.4, unless it's defined, is majority defined as 50% or is it defined as 50% plus 1? Do you know these?
For quorum it's always 50% plus 1. But I don't know that part.
The half is what was written in the SOPs already when I got them, and it's also what was written in, I know, Mr. Aziz's rules that he updated last year, so I just went according to what he had and the rules committee had already in their SOPs.
Okay.
I just did it so it's standard according to like all the committee's SOPs rather than having each one having different ones.
That makes sense.
So when you said more than half, which was originally there in the SOPs, that
Yes.
basically means 50% plus 1. So you
50%
just
It just
numerically put it there.
put it there so that people who are reading it know exactly what it is. It talks about the committee members and what our duties are as a committee. So essentially, who's in the committee? So it talks about the chair, the vice chair, and the all the senators put in by, I guess, Mr. Aziz, what you guys requested, or your alternates. You're expected to attend all meetings. If you guys won't get the meetings, you guys need to email me, let me know in advance. Any senator with a class, okay, same thing. If you guys do have a class, this applies, I guess, for summer and more for like fall too. You guys will be excused 15 minutes after class if you guys are coming after class, or 15 minutes before your class if you guys are leaving for class. That's duties of the chair. Duties of the vice chair. I added 5.1.3, any other committee-related tasks delegated by the chair. It's just standard across pretty much any job description at SG. It's just any tasks needed or any other duties that's needed. And I took out take regular minutes. Before, the vice chair used to take minutes, I guess, if the clerk wasn't here, but now we record all the meetings. So the vice chair doesn't actually have to take the minutes or anything, it's all recording so the clerk can do it. Any questions about any of those two? Committee minutes, it just says that the Senate clerk or secretary will take the minutes, and if they're not here, we'll have it recorded so that they can type the minutes after. And then this one says that we have to vote upon the minutes to make sure that it's actually who's saying what, and we do that after we accept the agenda. I send you guys out the minutes each week, and we can accept the minutes each week to see if it's. So that's just according to what the other committees have as well. We never really had anything about minutes, so I just added so we have it in committee. Because I added committee minutes, it's all changed to 7. There's no changes in it. So here it says the travel grant up to 60% of the money allocated for grant may be spent by the end of fall semester. Is that okay with you guys, or do you guys think it should be last more?
Is it possible to like decide on that based on what grants we get or requests we get?
We would need to do it now so that it's set for the committee all year, so it's standard staying. If we don't use all the money in fall, it transfers to spring anyways.
Could I direct a question over to
Yeah, you can.
Vanessa? Do you think any changes required as per ASBO?
No, we usually get more of the travel in the fall than we do in the spring.
So
We run out of money in the fall.
So you think it's good as it is?
Yeah, I think that's fine. Because anything that is not less than the 60%, we will roll over to the spring.
So any other concerns or comments about the 60%? Okay. So these are all pretty much just saying that when we have to turn them in, there needs to be a timeline set. Each of the applications have a timeline. You guys will see them on both your special funding dates. These dates are going on the website. You'll actually see them on the applications once we go through some applications. Here it says all grant requests must be submitted a minimum 2 business days prior to a scheduled committee meeting. The grant requests don't really have a certain business day that they need to be turned into us because each one has its own separate deadline. So the travel grant needs to be in 25 business days before the travel because we do it as a committee that way. We get it into the committee within the first 2 weeks, so the business office has the next 2 weeks to actually get things done, or 3 weeks. So I just took that out because it really isn't needed because each travel grant has its own, because even here it says an appropriate timeline. Each one has its own timeline, so it's not really needed 2 days before our committee meeting. Any questions about that? Okay. 7.7, the Committee on Special Funding will make a decision based on the request and the standards set as a committee. It says the amount of time left in the semester of the request. It doesn't really make sense because each one has a timeline. So we shouldn't be getting anything too late in the semester that we can't fulfill it because we set the timeline for a reason. Except for travel, but travel, as long as they get 25 business days, we're still operating there. There's no reason for it not to be taken in. So any questions about that? Okay. So does anyone have a motion to approve the made amendments?
Motion to approve SOPs.
Okay. Any objections? Okay. So save that and we'll put those in. I'll email you guys an updated copy once all of it's in so you guys have it if you ever want to look back into it. Next thing. So we're going to go through and we're going to review a lot of the grant, mostly I think the 2 grants that we're actually doing this semester. So we'll go through we don't need that. We'll go through the signature event for fall and the travel request and the travel grant. So the first one we'll do will be the signature event. It won't be starting as soon, but the travel grant's a lot more extensive and it needs a lot more attention to it, so we'll go through this one first. So this is just a cover sheet. At the bottom it says the due date, the due time, and where to send it. Everything on the application is fill in. So here's the signature event. Here's the 4 categories that it needs to go through. It specifically lists that you need 3 organizations. At least 1 must be activity and service fee funded. You can only get a max of $2,000. And then here's the 4 categories listed that they need to fit categories. Then we go down to scoring criteria. So essentially, it lets them know like what are we looking at in their request to make sure it actually goes through. So is it unique and creative, or other student organizations doing it? So if it's been done before in the past, or another student organization has done it has to be something unique if we're going to fund it. So if another organization is doing the same thing with the same materials, the same speakers, everything, it's not really unique if they're doing it already. So that's just some scoring criteria there. Accessibility, all events that we fund must be access to all students and it must be on campus so that students can attend it. So essentially we're just looking at, is it open to everyone, can everybody get to it, and is it being advertised to everyone? If it's not, then they either need to fix it so that they are advertising letting everybody go, or we just won't fund it if it's not hitting all students. And the next thing is just making sure it hits our statutes, and they're giving a list items of what they need the money for. They can't just say we need $1,500 for all our supplies. They can say we want speakers and they're gonna cost this much. We want food, it's gonna cost this much. That way we can look at each case by case.
Like one line
Mrs.
item.
Yeah, and you'll see it. We actually have the actual line item list so they can fill it out. So here's the application. So it's the name of event. It's all type in, so you can actually type in the name of everything. They can print it out, or I mean, they can save it. It should be able to save on most things. If they can't save it, then they can actually just print it out, fill it out, scan it back in, and email it as well. Why does it fit the category? So this is just that if they're going to do a category, they might as well let us know so that when we're looking at it, we're not trying to figure out how it fits each category. It's set right there. Date and time, are they flexible, location, how they're advertising, and here's the line item budget so they can actually fill in the budget and let us know exactly what they want. Then, are you receiving any funding from any other source? Because we only supplement costs, we don't actually provide all of the costs for people, so it'll let us know whether they're just going to do what they're doing with our money and that's it, or whether they're actually getting more things. It also helps us, in this part they'll usually say, they're already giving us this, that's why we didn't request for it. That way, when we're actually looking saying we're not funding 100% of your stuff, we know that we're actually, even if we fund everything on their list, it might only be 75% of what they actually need. So we're not actually giving everything. If they're funded for it in their annual budget, we don't do grants because it's essentially double dipping for them. So it's just making sure that if they do have it, so let's say they want to do a pizza party, if they ask for it in their annual budget and here, they might be getting more than enough money for the pizza party, and we don't do that. So that's just making sure that we're looking out for that. It asks what each organization is doing. We like to make sure that each organization actually having a part in the events for signature events, because the point of a signature event is for it to be grand, big, involve a lot of students, a lot of organizations, so that we can increase cohesiveness among our students. The goal of the event, how will it benefit the students, everything that our student body should be doing should be helping our students and everybody else. And then just the description of the event, so just everything that they're doing, so we can look at the events. That way, if we have an item, when we say, why do they need tablecloths, we can look back and say, oh, they're doing tables and food or something, we'll look back to it. And then this is just so we can look back at the organizations participating, and I can contact them if needed to see any other questions or anything. And there's 4 potential organization things. Any questions about this? Okay, so we'll be getting that. We'll probably be starting with this in July. Once we get a list of everybody who turns into signature events, we'll split it up. I'll give you guys a list of questions that we've done in the past. I have them with me here. I'll pass this around, you guys can just look at it. It's just questions we've done in the past, but when you guys are meeting these organizations, you know some of the things to look for. We'll also discuss it as it comes through, so that you guys know exactly what to look for in the organization, what questions to ask, and when you guys are going to come, you guys are essentially going to be representing these organizations, so that you're going to tell us what their event is, you're going to tell us why they need these items, so that I'm not trying to meet with 40 groups in 1 week period. We'll each probably take, depending on how many, we'll split it up evenly, so each of us will get 4 or something. I think last semester, in fall semester, we each got 4 organizations. So I'll pass on questions, so you guys can just take a look. So any questions about signature event before we move to travel? Travel is very extensive. It's a pretty long application, but there's also lots of guides and lots of resources for it. Okay. So next thing we go through. You guys got this, so you guys can always review this when we're going through all the applications when we get them. Everything is there for you. And then at the end, we're also going to go through, probably when we get the first travel application, we're going to go through and do standards. I don't know if I have it here already. We're going to go through standards and what we want to be funding for each travel grant, because we fund based on students and standards based rather than that way we were looking at each organization objectively and not saying, well, this organization is Jewish, so we'll fund them more. This organization is Democrat, so we'll fund them more. So that way we'll actually have standards set. I'll show you guys the list that we're gonna fill out. Probably the first meeting once we go through the first travel grant, we'll look through it. I'll write down suggestions of what we've done in the past, and you guys can go and look at it. So here's just some standards that ASARC has sent, our ASARC committee set, or appropriation to audit set last year. So we're gonna go by that for a lot of pencil shirts. They did $5, so we typically just keep that as a standard. Food, we typically do $2 per person, unless they're doing something. If they have to get a catered food because it's oriental, like something that's more cost expensive, like let's say I think I met with the Jewish organization and they actually ship their food from Miami because it all has to be kosher. We might actually get like $3 per head. So we'll set the standards, but we'll actually look at things like that. So here's, I'm gonna pass that around. This is mostly for the travel grant, so that you guys can look at. We can set standards for how much you want to pay, give per plane flight or something. We want to give up to, I think last year we did up to $400 per person for domestic flight, for domestic trips. That way we have a set number for each actual trip. Okay. So just look at that if you guys want. So this is going to be the travel grant. It's 6 pages. The first page is literally just instructions for the organization of what they need to do for the business office. So this is all the business side of it, essentially, besides the travel request. It says the first steps before they have to go and fill out the application, turn it in, and then we review it to them. And then they also need to start prepaying things if they want to prepay it. Sometimes we prepay things for them if they request it. The actual business office will do it for them. But it pretty much gives steps by step of exactly what they need to do before. It talks about what they need to do while, so they have to collect all the receipts and save all the receipts because if they want to be reimbursed, they have to have the receipts. So it lets them know that on the actual application. And then after the travel, it lets them know what they need to turn into the business office. That way the business office keeps track of their accounts, their receipts, reimburses them if needed, and does all that information. So it's essentially a lot of information for the organization so that they can get everything done properly and flow smoothly, and it runs smoothly for the business office. This is actually something that the business office sets up so that way they know the students know exactly what steps to take and they're not getting constant questions. Any questions about this?
I
Mrs.
just have
Sun?
one clarification. Does the organization need to be AMS funded in order to receive a travel grant?
In order to receive a travel grant, the organization must be AMS funded.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Trump.
On here it says if staying at the same hotel as the conference, they can't pay for the rental car, so they would have to use a personal car if they need travel expense to get there.
That means I guess they can technically have a shuttle from the airport to the hotel or something like that. But if the conference is at the hotel they're staying at, there's no point of renting a car and letting it sit in the lot for 5 days. So, I mean, Ms. Vanessa could probably clarify on what they could do otherwise.
Usually because we pay more for the hotel, for them to stay at a conference hotel, and everything is provided there, that the reason you're staying at a conference hotel, so a car is not needed. You can take the cab or the shuttle from the airport to the hotel, but we don't pay for taxi cabs for them to go to dinner or things like that. The main reason is because they're staying at the conference hotel.
Thank you.
Mr. Semino?
The 44.5 cents per mile, is that based on our, like, the university, what they're gonna pay, or is that based on the federal?
I believe it's state.
State.
State, okay.
Mhm.
Cause I know I've seen other organizations take that 25 cents a mile.
It depends what vehicle type you're
Right.
using, yeah. But that is your personal car. And we do MapQuest, so we put the address from the university to either the conference hotel or wherever they're going, and that's where we get the mileage from.
So that is the so that's how we look at it. Any questions about the information sheet? This is just the information sheet to give the organizations essentially the business office side of what they need to do besides the application. So that way they can make sure that they actually get the reimbursement that they need, and it lets them know what they need to do to get that. Okay? It also gives an email so that if they have any questions, they can always email the business office. Okay. So this is the first page of the travel request. So this is the information about the conference, the organization, everything of that sort. How many days they're staying, how many people are driving, just so that we have an idea of what the conference is, how many are going, because we fund based on the number of people that are actually traveling. So let's say they put 12 people on the request and they only end up having 8 people go. We'll actually go and essentially decrease their amount by a third to make up for the people that don't actually go. The next information is the travelers information. This is mainly the people who's going to be held responsible for all the paperwork, the meeting with the business office, turning receipts. So this person is typically, they're going on a trip so they can account for everything that goes on, along with the conference website. We typically will look up the conference website to check registration fees, to check where the hotel is, to see if they're staying at the conference hotel, stuff like that. So we have that there so we can reference it. And this is all mainly for us to contact the person and for the business office to contact them when they need to meet with them. This is the important part for us. So this is the sheet that they're going to fill out for all the stuff that they're requesting. So they're going to have the registration, and they can fill out the registration, and that'll be cost per item. So for one person's registration, or if they're doing group registration, they usually just do it here. So if they have 10 people going, and it's, let's say it's $100 per person, they would put 100 here, but then they would put the 1,000 right here. And it actually fills it in for them here. So it's really going to be really easy for us to go through and look. Hotel, the hotel will be how much per night times how many nights. And so let's say it's $200 per night, but then they're staying for 5 nights, it'll be $1,000 for all 5 nights. It won't do it here, but if they're doing 2 rooms at $1,000 for all the nights, it'll be $2,000, and it actually updates everything for them. So to make it really easy for us to go back and review it, we have a guide that I'll show you guys in a minute that we set up so that they know exactly what they're putting in each column. Airfare and then other. So other can be anything from, if they're renting a car, they can request money for renting car rentals. If they want food, they can request money for food. In the past, in the other communities, we typically have set standards that we don't fund food, because if you're on campus, you're going to be paying for food anyways. So if you're at a conference, you're expected to essentially be paying for your food anyways, so you would do it at home. So we've done that in the past, but if you guys feel that we should do it differently, we can do food, but a lot of organizations will actually ask for food. Well, some of them will. So we can actually decide whether we want to do that or not. And we've also had some organizations that have filled it out, they've only requested food and they're covering almost all the other travel expenses themselves, so we made exceptions for them because we're not funding actual travel, they're just asking for food. So it's things to look at. It's travel requests are really a case-by-case basis of what we're going to do. Next committee will actually probably go through and look at travel requests in the past and see what they've asked for, what we've funded them, and we can go through some of their standards, and you guys can look at what we've done in the past. So that's requesting. Anything about the requesting fields? Okay. So down here will just be their travel signature, so the person who's, I guess, heading the trip, along with their financial officer signature, just to make sure that the organization agrees with it. So this is a prepayment request form. So this is for the business office. So if the organization wants the business office to prepay things, typically they get it in a lot earlier if they want this. But the business office can essentially pay for the things before they do, so they don't have to get reimbursed for it. So rather than getting reimbursed after the trip, the business office will sometimes just pay it up front so they don't have to come back in the end. So they will do flights, hotels, or registration. That's the only things they'll actually prepay. And they have to follow our standards, or I guess I'm pretty sure they follow our standards what they can pay for that.
What do you mean?
Our title, our finance code.
Oh, yes.
So like hotels, they can only pay the $50 per night per person. is the max that they can pay for hotels essentially.
If, they go over the $50 per night, what they have to do is prepay their own lodging, and we will reimburse them the $50 per night, but if it's over, we will not pay for it at all.
So they can only prepay things that follow, as long as the amount falls within standards.
Yeah.
Any questions about the prepayment? Okay. So this is really important that we check this. In case I forget, make sure you guys remind me. This is essentially a list of everybody who's traveling with them. So the number of signatures that they have here must line up with the number of travelers that they have here. If it doesn't, then I need to talk to the organization to make sure. I usually will check it first, but just in case, just make sure you guys remind me. We did have a couple last year that didn't have all the signatures. But that's just to make sure that we know who is traveling. They're a student here, they're registered for the organization. If they don't have all of them signed and information down, the business office can't let them go on the trip or pay for the trip, so we won't fund for them as well. So we just need to make sure that this lines up to the number. And the last one was additional driver form. So if students are actually driving their own cars, this is more for the business office. The business office has to turn in information for each driver, so we just have to make sure that the additional driver forms match up with the number of drivers at the top as well. Any questions about this?
I have a
neutral.
question.
Yes.
On the previous page,
Yes.
so, the USF, our student government Tampa also funds for Lakeland travel too. Because it says, by signing this form, I certify that I'm a current USF Tampa or Lakeland student.
Yes, we do. They're part of, we pay for, Lakeland SG,
Huh.
but Lakeland is almost gone, so we're not gonna worry about that right now.
I don't remember getting any travel requests from them last year. We
It
could
was
have.
mainly through their student government office.
And then my second question was, in order to travel, all travelers must be registered to your organization on Blackboard. Are they still using Blackboard?
It's Canvas now, but I think they're switching to something else, but it's still all linked together.
Oh,
Okay. You saw that we approved the money last year for CSI when they came and requested for
Yeah.
their new website. So they're essentially going to be operating over that. I believe at the end of summer is what their hopes were. So they'll probably be doing all that through there. But we can probably see about changing that when it comes around or something.
We
But
could probably change it, before you put it up on the website if you wanna do that. Let me find out, the actual name from, Edna Miller downstairs,
Org-Sync.
OrgSync.
or thing, okay,
Right. So we'll have him email that to you,
okay.
and then that way.
Is it active now? Is it, have you guys been using it?
I think they're still like testing it out on
Okay.
their end, so
We can just change it to with CSI.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah.
To make a standard thing, that way no matter what the thing they're using is at least
Okay.
standard.
Alright.
Okay. You guys saw something.
Oh, yeah.
Any questions about that for the next page? Okay. And then this last part is more for, I'm pretty sure it's more for the organization to turn into business office to keep track of all expenses.
Yeah.
And so this is just that they can keep track of the organization's name, how much they actually spent, so that when they go to get reimbursed for anything, they have it all documented for the business office. And that's the actual travel grant request form. Any questions about this form? Okay. So along with the form, we have two different guides. First one is some frequently asked questions. So it's a lot of questions that a lot of organizations have asked in the past. So we started frequently asked questions that they can. It's on the website next to travel grant, so they can go back and look at these just in case, rather than waiting for an email response for either Vanessa or I, and possibly if they email it late at night and when we get done, not waiting until the morning for a response. So it's just saying it won't be deducted from their annual allocation. It's a separate budget. If they're actually presenting a grant at it, they have to request from the conference presentation grant rather than travel grant, that if they're just attending, then they can get it from here. If they did not turn in their budget on time and they are not funded for this year, they cannot get a travel grant request form, or a travel grant request, or travel funded for travel grants. It can be any type of conferences. I know in the past some engineering clubs have actually requested money to go compete. I think they even went all the way up to like Minnesota and Canada to compete in a robotics competition. So we fund for that. It doesn't necessarily just have to be like academic, but as long as it benefits the students as a whole, they can do it. If it's just going just because you want to have fun type of thing, going to an amusement park for fun, we don't typically fund for that. This is fun.
I just had a question. So the travel grant, you cannot like present a research or something, but you can attend one or like a retreat.
Yes. The travel grant is just for attending a conference or going to a conference. If you're actually like presenting research or something, they have a separate grant,
The
CPGP. CPGP, which is run through the business office, which is also on the same website on the grants page of SG. The application is there.
But we do not deal with that.
We do not review those. That's all done through business office, and they have a person that actually goes through and reviews those, if I remember correctly. So this just asks if 10 members apply, but only 5 end up going, is the allocation the same? And lets them know that if they add members after they submit the request, we don't increase the amount, and if they drop members, we do decrease the amount. Because we're funding based on what they give us at the number of time, and that's it. And the last question is, we had a lot of organizations last year request either mileage or gas, and we had difficulties of them trying to figure out which one they actually need to request. So it just says, it lets them know that if they're using their personal vehicles, they get reimbursed for mileage, and if they're renting a car, they get reimbursed for gas. So that's the question and answer thing. Any questions about this? This is just information, so if they have questions when they're filling it out, they can do that. And the last thing we have to go with it is Jeremy over in the business office worked on something that we had in the past, which I don't think is actually used last year, but I thought it would be a great thing. So it's essentially just a PowerPoint to go through each step to make sure that they're doing it correctly. So that's the table of contents. The first thing is the request process. So it just says what they need to do, fill out the application, submit it to special funding, they do a request, saving receipts, turning business office. So essentially it's just a little breakdown of all the steps that they need to do to get funded. This is just what's written in Proviso, so our statutes that we went over, the max that they can get for each day, just that they have it as well, so that they know that they can't get more than $60 per day for a car rental, stuff like that. So it's just our statutes that if they want to refer back to it, they can refer back to it easily. This is the first page, and it just lets them know that fill out each information, all the information properly, and that you estimate meals may not exceed $36 per day if you put it in other section. Letting them know that it populates automatically here. There goes the next one. This lets them know about hotels. We had problems with hotels that it was really hard to understand what they were requesting for each day, trying to figure out which line was going where. So were they putting nights on top or on the bottom, so that. So it lets them know what we're looking for each column, so that when they go to fill it out, we know what we're looking at as well, because they should have done it by our guide. Prepayment is just information about the prepayment, letting them know this is more business side of business office of what they wanted to say. We tell them not to make reservations through Expedia, they actually have to book with the airlines like that, or the business office is actually paying them for it. Affidavit of travel, it just lets them know that each member has to print it, they have to print it out, each member has to sign by hand, they can't do it on the computer. And each person actually has to fill out all the information. Additional driver forms that they have to fill out completely and turn that in. And then other tools, it just lets them know to fill out everything as specific as they can. If they have any questions, they can let me know, and then once they complete it, they can email it to the email address, which goes to it goes to an email that's shared among the chairman and the business office, so the business office can review it and they can see it too, and I can see it, we can all pull them out and get them out on time. So that's any questions about this PowerPoint. It's just the guides that each person can go through and understand. Okay. That's done. Okay. So any questions about this? Cool. So we'll go through the timeline. Does everybody have this timeline of dates? So this is just the dates that you guys have a copy of when we're going to be reviewing each of the things. So travel grant will hopefully be opening by June 1st. We're going to finish the last updates and we'll send it back to marketing, update the new one online. But it just runs consistently. Organizations can turn it in as they go. Typically what happens is I'm going to slowly go over with you guys how to go through a travel grant request. Once we have a break and stuff, we'll go through how to meet with organizations, find out information. So eventually you guys can be meeting these organizations. We'll probably wait until we go through some of the actual requests so that you guys can see how it's done first. So what will happen is they'll turn in their request to the email. I'll print it out, I'll meet with them, and I'll get all the extra information that they need to let me know about, are they staying at the same hotel, what's the conference about, everything about it. So I'll bring it into the committee, and then we'll go through the whole application line by line, make sure all information is there, and then we'll review their requests. So all their requests for airlines, car rentals, hotels, everything. We'll go by standards, we'll see how much we want to allocate them, and I'll go and call the information, and I'll do the rest of the business office so that they can get the requests through. So that's what we're going to do for travel grants. We'll probably get a lot of those throughout the summer. I've gotten probably 5 emails so far of people waiting as well as questions in person. So we'll probably be getting a lot of those soon, so just keep an eye out on that. And then the next thing we'll be doing is signature event for fall. Applications will be due Friday, June 27th. That Friday at 5, I'll go through and I'll collect all the ones applications that have been turned in. I'll make an Excel document about it, and I'll send you guys an email with an Excel document, and I'll have you guys each sign up for a certain amount based on how many organizations apply. And then we'll give you guys the next week to try to meet with each of the organizations. I'll give you guys the contact information, the person in charge, you guys can email them. Try to fit something in your schedule. If you guys are having problems with that, I'll work with you guys so that I can do it. If not, but we'll do that later on in the summer. Any questions about that? Cool. So let me go through the SOP. So the next committee meeting, what we'll probably do is we'll probably do vice chair elections. So if you guys are interested, we'll go through the vice chair duties in a second. Essentially, the duties of the vice chair are, so if I can't make it to a meeting, you could possibly be running a committee meeting. Throughout the summer, I'll probably have you guys each slowly start chairing meetings as we go through so you guys can practice. So if you guys are interested in being a vice chair in fall and there's an opening, or if you guys want to do a position next year, you guys have some practice doing it. If you guys are interested, I won't make you guys do it, but if you guys want to try it, you guys can do it. I have a neat little cheat sheet that Mr. Aziz gave me last year of how to chair a meeting. So it's really easy for you guys. You guys follow instructions. So yeah, so you guys will be chairing meetings if I'm not here. You'll be helping me, you'll probably be helping me more with the travel grants a little sooner so that I'm not trying to get all these invitations in a rush. So I'll probably answer you guys on the side if you're interested in doing it to go through all the information. You guys will meet not only Vanessa, but some of the other people in the business office so that you know who they are if you guys have questions, if you guys need to go to them, and any other related tasks. So essentially, you'll just be preparing in case you guys are interested for this chair position, or if you guys want a position just to learn more about SG and want to get some more practice on running meetings, stuff like that. So if you guys are interested in that, please email me. If you guys want nominations, email me your nominations, whether it's each other, yourself, We'll go through that next meeting as well as doing nominations on the floor next meeting as well. So next meeting we'll be doing that. I'll pull up some old travel requests so you guys can look at how they were done in the past and see what we did with those. And that's probably all we'll really be doing next meeting. So depending if you guys are having fun going through looking through requests, we might go a little longer. If not, we could possibly be out in 30 minutes. Any questions or anything about that? Okay. So announcements. Any announcements? Mr. Z.
So, just spoke with the communications department. The application should be up. He's gonna submit it tomorrow to IT. So it should be up before June 1st. For your deadline. Marketing has your requests for like advertising the grants and the travel and stuff. And also for when you're doing travel and grants, make sure everyone stays viewpoint neutral for all your decision making. So you don't want to have like favoritism or like be negative towards an organization or anything.
Was everybody at the Senate meeting for viewpoint neutrality? Presented by Gary Manka. You
Was that last Saturday meeting?
last
First Senate meeting.
not yesterday, but last week.
May 20th.
The first one.
Very first one this semester.
Yeah, that was
I guess you can send them the PowerPoint.
Alright, so I'll talk to Gary about getting the PowerPoint for you to look through, and I'll talk to you about that. It's something that you'll really get with going through each thing. It's just making sure that you're remaining neutral for each of the organizations and not even like essentially not looking at the name or who it is, looking at the request itself.
being ethical.
Yeah. So we'll go through. I'll go through that with you sometime, and I'll get the PowerPoint so we can go through that. Any other announcements?
That should be about it for now.
Any other announcements? Ms. Hassan?
Motion, final roll call.
No, you final.
Oh, motion to adjourn.
Alright, any objections? Hey, we adjourn at 7 p.m.
Also, question.
Okay.
When the business office do versus the organization,
That's all.
you guys really reimburse.
What we do is reimburse them.
Stop it.
Yeah.